Good afternoon. Today we're going to be tying a really universal fly, can catch a lot of species. It's called a meat whistle. And here is one I tied up a little bit ago. And this is tied on a jig hook so it rides upside down in the water. And this one's tied on a size 1/0 Umpqua Series X. And it's a very heavy duty jig fly or fly hook. I've used this meat whistle to catch bass and maybe even caught some crappie on smaller ones. And also it's great for walleye and northern pike. I think it's also going to work on redfish in the larger sizes. So one of the hardest things about tying this fly is getting the cone on, because you've got a barb on the hook, and sometimes the cone does not want to go over the barb. So you've got to kind of force it on with your thumbnails. There we go. And get the cone onto the hook. Get the hook securely in the vise. And we're going to add some lead weight, just a little bit. This will also help position the cone. So let's get about 4 wraps of 0.025 lead wire on the hook. 4 wraps is really all that we need. Helicopter our wire off. There we go. Make sure we secure both of those ends of the lead wire with our thumbnails, get them nice and close to the hook. Now bring the lead wire up to a point where, when the cone is in its final position, that the lead wire is behind, closer to the hook point than it is to the bend in the hook. Anyway, about right there. You can see it's, with the cone in place in its final position, the lead wire is not quite to the cone. Okay, now let's secure the lead wire in place. We're using 140 denier ultra thread. Bring that thread to the front of the lead. So we've kind of used the thread to position the wraps of wire in place. Now we'll build up a ramp to the lead wire on each side. This will help in transitioning all of our other materials over the lead wire. The extra lead wire will help add some weight to help this fly sink down to where the fish are. Okay, we're in pretty good shape there with the position of the cone. Now take your thread clear back to the bend of the hook. And our first material is going to be the body material for the fly, and we're using some pearl core braid in a root beer color in this case by Hairline, and it accomplishes two things. One, it's got some flash in it, so we're going to provide some flash in the body of the fly, and it's also going to provide kind of a knot at the back of the fly that will help position our zonker strip we're going to put on in just a moment. So we're going to bring the thread up to about the midpoint of the hook, midway between the bend and where the cone is going to sit. Then wrap the core braid around the shank of the hook. And tie that off. Now for our tail, we've got some rabbit zonker that is in a magnum size, and it's a tiger barred strip with the primary color being yellow, but has some orange and black in the tips. And we want this zonker strip to be about 2.5 hook shank lengths long. 2 and about 1/2. And we'll trim this or cut this at an angle. Okay, then measure where we want the hook to stab through the zonker strip. So it's going to be right here at the back of the core braid. That's where it's going to be poking through the point. So grasp it firmly and poke the point of the hook through the zonker strip. Now remove the hook from the vise and reinsert it. Keep in mind, because this is a jig hook, the hook is going to ride with the point up. So with the hide or the zonker strip in this position, all of that fur is going to be pointed upward as the fly rides through the water, which is what we want. Okay, now we're going to tie down that zonker strip in front of the core braid. There we go. That secures the zonker strip in place. That plus having the hook poke through it at the back. Now we want to add some flash, and for that we're going to use some hot orange crystal flash, and we'll take about 5 or 6 strands of that stuff. and loop those strands of crystal flash around the hook and even up that on each side and tie it down on the side nearest you. I guess nearest me. And then take half of that to the other side, the far side, and tie that down on the far side. So it runs down the side of the rabbit strip. Okay, we're going to pull all those back gently and trim them off about maybe 3/4 the length of the tail, a little shorter than the length of the tail. Okay, now we're going to tie on some rubber legs, and in this case I'm using some orange barred silly legs, and we'll take 2 strands of those rubber silly legs and just like the crystal flash, even it up on both sides. Tie it down on my side. Take 2 of those legs over to your side, far side, and tie those down. Okay, then we'll pull up those legs and trim those off just slightly shorter than we trim the crystal flash. And let's clean up our tie down of the legs. Got a knot of rubber legs right there. That's better. And the next material is going to be some more rabbit zonker, but in this case, this is a cross-cut rabbit zonker. It's cut differently off the hide and really works a lot better for this application because it's going to create a collar that that kind of folds back towards the back of the hook, and the cross cut really works better for that application. And this is black with an orange frost tip. You could use just plain black as well if you'd like, or whatever color suits you. Okay, we'll tie that down so that those fibers on the cross-cut rabbit strip point rearward. And that's the way they're going to be wrapped. Let's double check our position of our cone. Okay, so we're going to want that the cross-cut rabbit strip to end up about where our thread is at this point. We don't want to go any further forward. If we do, what happens is you have a heck of a time repositioning your cone and getting it up over the edge of that rabbit strip. So don't crowd the bend in the hook and the cone, or else you'll have a problem. And it just takes 2 wraps. There's one of the cross-cut rabbit zonker. Okay. Tie that down and trim off our excess. stroke all those hairs backward and tie down the end of that rabbit zonker. Let's double check our cone. So we're going to be able to fold that cone up with not a problem. That's going to be just good positioning. Our next and our last material is going to be a saddle hackle. In this case, I'm going to use a hot orange, and we're going to strip those fluffy fibers back and cut off the stem. Okay, then the position of this saddle hackle, if you'll notice, you've got those fibers tend to stroke backwards towards the back of the hook if you hold it like this. If you hold the feather like this, those feathers or fibers are oriented forward. We want them oriented backwards, so we're going to tie them in like this. So it's going to fold against the shank of the hook. Okay, now you can wet your fingers a little bit and stroke those fibers rearward and then start your wrap. Your first revolution, you want to be up close to the rabbit zonker, right behind the rabbit zonker. Tie all that saddle hackle down. Trim off our excess. It's kind of messy right now. We'll take care of that. Serve more wraps to secure that. And whip finish. Now take a little bit of head cement and put that on your thread right at the whip finish so it secures that, so that won't come undone. Okay, push the cone up and back as far as you can. And the cone helps force those fibers of the saddle hackle backwards. Now take the thread and we're going to tie that in so we actually keep that cone from sliding forward down next to the eye of the hook. Trim off our excess. We're going to build up a little thread cone in front of our brass cone. This kind of forms the nose of the fly, for lack of a better term. Okay, now we can whip finish again. Snip for a thread. Okay, now to secure that, we're going to use two finishes. One is a Loon Flow clear finish, and it's a UV cured material, and we're going to brush that on our thread cone. Then turn on our UV light and cure there we go. Now I've found with the UV resin, what happens a lot of times is it will turn milky on you. It doesn't hurt anything, but to keep it from turning milky, I put a little bit of Sally Hansen's finish over the top once we've cured that with the UV light. That seems to keep it from turning milky. And there you have it, the finished meat whistle fly. Again, it rides upside down, and it's a great fly for a variety of fish species. Give that a try and enjoy tying it.